In a time of dread, Sears foretold the birth of a child that would bring about the downfall of the powerful Queen Bavmorda. I'm John Recton with the retro review of Willow, one of my favorite medieval movies, say it with me kids, of all time. Came about at the tail end of the 80s when a bunch of sword and sorcery, sword and sandal movies were out, like Ator the Fighting Eagle from Italy, capitalizing on Conan the Barbarian. It wasn't very good. Boy, it wasn't very good. My God, it was fucking shit. But it was a great Riff Tracks episode. Check it out if you haven't. If you don't know what Riff Tracks is, check that stuff out, because you might know it under its more familiar name, Mystery Science Theater 3000. Nevertheless, there was Ladyhawke that had its electric guitar soundtrack in the medieval ages. Makes no goddamn sense, yet really fits the movie, because I'm used to it now. There was Legend that had Tom Cruise in it. I recently retro-viewed that. Actually, I think it's been about a year, but nevertheless, time is a flat circle. Time flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like a banana. I hate fruit flies on my banana. Nevertheless, also had The Princess Bride. Much, much, much more iconic than those previous two. Andre the Giant. Hello, lady. I miss Andre the Giant. He was such a goddamn character. He lived it up in his 46 years on this earth. Willow was kind of following that momentum, and Ron Howard really understood how to get the most out of what was basically a basic, typical story of somebody having to be more than they ever thought they could be. So it has Val Kilmer, Joanne Whalley, who plays the Queen's daughter, Sorsha, who, good fucking God, Joanne was fucking gorgeous here. I mean, actually, I saw a recent picture of her. She still looks great. She's 61 years old. Warwick Davis, who, if you've never seen Willow, well, then you might remember him as Leprechaun in, wait for it, the Leprechaun franchise. And then also Jean Marsh was Queen Bavmorda, and just oozing fucking cheese, and also dressed like Maleficent. I couldn't get over that. Once I saw that, I half expected her to say, "Now you'll deal with me, fair prince, and all the powers of hell." So yeah, this movie basically involves Willow just wanting to live his life with his wife Kaya and his two kids, but after a child is born that is part of a prophecy that will end up growing up, and she will bring about the downfall of Queen Bavmorda. This queen says, "I want the child killed." And then because this queen is not aware of anything that goes on in her castle, somebody is able to escape with that child, and then sends the child down the river. And then around the river bend, Pocahontas does not find her. Nope, it is, well, Warwick Davis and his children, or his children in this movie. And then they're going to raise the kid. But unfortunately, there are these rat boars that decide to attack them, because why the fuck wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they attack them? Also, funny thing about this movie, 225 to 240 little people were part of this cast or whatever, so the entire movie was short-staffed, literally. If you think that's the only short joke I'm going to make, well, from now on, there'll be history, there'll be history. Don't worry, all the criticisms go over their head. Nevertheless, there's this one guy named Burglecut that's a fucking dick to him. That kind of looks like a short Friar Tuck. Friar Nip and Tuck, as it were. He can literally tuck himself and roll. Tuck himself and walk under a closed door. Told you that wasn't it for the short jokes. And Willow he wants nothing to do with the kid, but it's obvious the kid forms a bond with him. And then the giant rat boars show up. They're basically just dogs with rat tails, and they get stabbed. And they said, we need to consult the council. And then this little short Merlin shows up and says, I am going to consult these bones. Shakes them out. The bones, they tell me nothing. Do you have love for the child? Yes, I do. The bones have spoken. I hate when my bone speaks. And they send some of the people off, some of the little people off into the outskirts. And then Willow and a few go off on their own. And it's going to be a long journey or whatever. But they'll do some growing up. Oh, they won't do any growing up. And then the wizard decides to launch a stone into the air. Oh, it's the bird. The bird's flying towards the village. I'll ignore the bird, follow the river. Some good quotes in this. And then Lord Kale. Lord Kale, who I believe was the same guy that got the propeller in his face in that Indiana Jones movie, which is funny. So, at least eventually, they meet, they have to meet the other hero of the movie, even Madmartigan, very, very wordy name, played by Val Kilmer, who's trapped in a little crow's nest thing, and he keeps calling him Pex. People leave because they're like, well, we don't really want to do this anymore. We need to give it to the first Daikini, the human being, because they're known as Nelwyns, short people. And he says, I'm the greatest swordsman that ever lived. Eventually he gets freed, even though this old army friend of his marches by and just says, nah, fuck it, we don't want to deal with you, Madmartigan. And I'll take care of the baby, just let me out of the cage. And then he gets let out of the cage. And they leave the kid with him. And then the kid ends up getting taken by some brownies, some even smaller people, which is hilarious. They're like the Cheech and Chong of brownies with how much they talk. But then Willow and his friend get caught. And there's a Charlindora. Man, that's just goddamn hard to say. God, there's so many hard names to say. There's this friggin' fairy woman that just says, oh, Alora Dellen must survive. She will bring the end to the queen who, lords over this land like an evil plague. If she doesn't, well, we're fucked. She doesn't say that, but she might as well have. And, well, Madmartigan gets captured a little bit later because we see Val in drag, because why wouldn't we? He's just having to pretend to, exist among everybody in this village. And then there's this husband that shows up, Lorg, or Lug. He looked like a Lorg. And he was upset because he found out that, oh no, you're not a woman. And he starts punching out all the bad soldier people. And we get a giant scuffle. And then we get a runaway carriage battle, which is really, really fun. And the baby's being endangered all this time. He says, you endangered the baby. I just saved this baby's life. And the brownies are, of course, all, one was named Rule, played by, or just, actually spelled R-O-O-L, which is even more hilarious for some reason. The queen is upset because she's like, you can't find this kid. What do I fucking pay you people for? You barely pay us anything, you dumb bitch. What was that? Nothing. And they end up, they end up bonding, Elora and Willow bond. But also, Madmartigan realizes, hey, I kind of like this hero stuff. I shouldn't just be out for myself. He also ends up falling for Sorsha. Again, look at her in this movie. I can't fucking blame him. And we get more comedy with the brownies acting all weird and everything. They go to far off lands. They keep getting pursued by these evil people, including Lord Kale's discount Skeletor with his mask. And then there's this one wizard, or sorceress rather, Finn Roselle, who is a weird red panda type squirrel thing. Actually, she's more like a lemur. But then she needs Willow to change her back. He has this fancy wand that he got from the little fairy woman out there, and he practices magic, but he's not great at it. And he also was given some acorns that could turn anything into stone by the previous short Merlin guy. But he hasn't had to use them yet. And there's also this dust that the brownies have. It's a powder that basically makes you fall in love with the first person of the opposite sex that you see. One of the brownies got it and fell in love with a cat that kind of reminded me of my cat, the producer, that is currently out hunting right now. Fun. He's going to bring me back a gift. Yay. But Madmartigan gets a bunch in his face and falls for Sorsha. Again, you wouldn't even need to put some powder in my face to make me fall for her. Good fucking God, she looked great. Am I gushing too much over her? At one point, right after that, they're in a snowy village. They rescue the kid, and they slide down a shield through an ice palace thing, straight out of World 6 of Mario 64, and then they slide right into another village. It's literally maybe 2 miles down. How did they get, you know what? I don't even want to know how they got down there. I don't even want to know. I don't want to know how there were cows there. I'm not even going to question this stuff. And then Madmartigan runs into his old friend Eric, A-R-I-K, and they decide to band together. He captured Sorsha, who eventually does get away, even as they're going to this particular village. But she realizes, maybe he was being nice and everything. Maybe he was being nice. Maybe my mother really is an evil bitch. You think? And then they get to this seemingly abandoned place. And, well, there's trolls. There's a lot of trolls there. And Willow hates trolls. But uses the wand after transforming Finn Roselle into a goat. Because, of course, because he can't quite figure this stuff out and you need to transform her eventually. There are these trolls around. He transforms one into this weird little brainy creature with tentacles coming out of it. And then kicks it off and it goes into the water and somehow grows into this giant two-headed Hydra. Hail Hydro, because it fell in water. Do you get it? Do you get it? They keep battling. It was a lot of fun. They eventually end up causing one of the... Well, Madmartigan causes one of the heads to blow up by stabbing it. Or maybe they launch a flaming arrow at it. It's really hard to tell. It was just so much fun I didn't really bother to think, hey, how the fuck did that cause that? The trolls kind of look like they were straight out of 2001 for some reason. It was quite hilarious. And they're going to march on the Queen's castle. That's literally right down the goddamn road. And the Queen calls them a pitiful army. You dare to challenge me? All I see is a bunch of pigs. And she has, by the power of suggestion, they all turn into pigs. Except Willow, because he uses a protection spell. And then changes Finn Roselle back into herself. She's an old woman. And now they have a protection spell that lords over them for some reason. But then Willow says, we can't attack the castle head on. In my village, we had a lot of gophers. Willow, this is war, not agriculture. No, I have an idea. And then, here's a question. So, basically, the next day, it's just Finn Roselle and Willow there. And then suddenly, these soldiers, like 6 soldiers, get out on horses. And then, they rise up out of these pits. Their tents are all flattened and everything. And they attack, and they get into the castle. Was nobody keeping watch at night? How in the world did this happen? So, the most hilarious part comes when Queen Madmartigan and Finn Roselle battle, and they're just battling with snow and ice and everything and making weird noises. It's just so fucking funny. Making weird noises. I don't even know what it was like. It was like if Emperor Palpatine was just on speed. And then... Meanwhile, there's this battle going on. Eric's leading this charge along with Madmartigan. Eric gets killed by Discount Skeletor, a.k.a. Kale. And then Kale gets killed, which is funny. Eric does have one heroic line, win this war for me. The old women, just Finn Roselle's like, this magic isn't working. I'm just going to punch her in the face. Just starts punching her in the face. Just full-on punching. It's great stuff. And then Willow's like, well, she's knocked out. Sorsha's knocked out. I don't have Madmartigan. I'm going to throw this acorn stone at her. It almost worked. And the powers don't work on me. Well, earlier in the movie, because see, if you remember this is a little bit of an Easter egg, he did a disappearing pig trick for the village before he went off on his adventure. He did it with the baby. Allura, goodbye, Allura. It's like, does the thing, and the Queen's all upset. Knocks all this blood over, this lightning strikes her, and she's sent into the netherworld instead of the child being sent to the netherworld. And it's bloody and all this, and woo! And it says, Willow, where's the baby? Oh, it's just my old disappearing pig trick. And then everybody's happy. And Sorsha is going to take care of the kid. God, Sorsha is gorgeous. Moving on from that. He goes home. Willow goes home. Everybody's happy and everybody's celebrating. Willow is fucking terrific. If you have not seen it, please watch it. It's great. It's goddamn great. Ron Howard did a great job here. Anyway, agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.